Some are born with golden spoons. But if you aren't so lucky, then hear my story, and maybe you'll find strength to carry on. This is my story. The township wakes before the sun. With cracked pavements and tin rooftops, eKasi stretches its limbs and exhales a new day. My name is Ayanda Mokoena. I was born in the heartbeat of dust and defiance. They say the township is loud, but for me, it was silence that screamed the most. The silence of dreams buried, of hunger unspoken, of poems never read. Every morning I walk barefoot to the hilltop, where I write in my gogo's old notebook. It's falling apart like most things here, but it holds my voice. Mama sells vet cook at the taxi rank. My little brother, Sipo, still dreams with open eyes. But me, I write, I watch, I wait. They won't hear you, Mama always says. Words don't put food on the table. But Gogo once whispered to me, Ayanda, your words carry rhythm. They carry the ancestors. That morning, something new fluttered in the wind. A flyer stuck to a street pole. It was flapping like it had wings. Youth writing competition, voices of tomorrow, it read. My heart skipped, not because I thought I could win, but because someone, somewhere, wanted to hear us. I took the flyer, folded it carefully, and ran home like I was carrying fire. That night, while Sipo snored softly beside me, I wrote by candlelight. The prompt was simple: tell us who you are. I wrote about Gogo stories, about the taste of hunger, about the sound of swallowed tears, about how silence in eKasi isn't empty, it's full. Mama didn't know I entered. She would have said, waste of time, write the shopping list instead. But Gogo, I could feel her smile in the candle's flicker. Weeks passed, I forgot about it, until one afternoon, after school, a car I didn't recognize stopped outside our shack. A woman stepped out holding a white envelope. Ayanda Mokoena, my knees nearly gave out. You've been selected as one of the finalists. You'll read your piece in Johannesburg, on stage. On stage? I had never left Soweto, never worn shoes that weren't hand-me-downs, never spoken into a microphone. That night, Mama sat quietly. Then she reached under the bed and pulled out her only good shoes. They're tight, she said, but they'll carry you. And when I walked away the next morning, those shoes bit into my feet like memory, but I didn't stop walking. The city was louder than I imagined. Johannesburg pulsed with ambition, glass towers, honking taxis, and faces too busy to look up. I clutched my notebook tight, the only thing familiar. The venue smelled of fresh paint and nerves. Red seats, big lights, a microphone standing tall at the center of it all. My name was on the program, third speaker. I watched the others before me, kids from private schools speaking English like they were born on stages. My stomach turned, my palms sweated. What was I doing here? But then I touched the corner of Gogo's notebook. I closed my eyes and I walked up. The lights were blinding. The mic was taller than me. I cleared my throat and began. My name is Ayanda Mokoena. I was born in the heartbeat of dust and defiance. As I spoke, the room grew still. I wasn't just reading, I was remembering. Gogo's voice, Mama's worry, Sifo's laughter. I read every word like it was carved from my bones. When I finished, no one clapped at first. Just silence. And then there was applause. Loud, unstoppable, real. A woman in a yellow dress wiped a tear and whispered, "That child is South Africa." That night, I didn't win first place, but I won something bigger, a voice and a letter sealed in gold. The envelope felt too elegant for my calloused hands. Thick paper, embossed logo. It smelled like promise. Inside was a scholarship, full tuition to a youth writing academy in Braamfontein, a 6-month program, real mentors, real notebooks, real chance. I read it out loud twice, afraid it might disappear if I blinked. Mama didn't understand it at first. "They're paying you to write? Not work?" I nodded, smiling gently. She sighed. "Just don't forget where you come from." I wouldn't. I couldn't. I was the child of shack walls and warm hands. I carried Gogo's voice in my chest and the dust of eKasi in my shoes. When the day came, I packed my few things in a small black bag, a change of clothes, my notebook, Mama's tight shoes. Sipho hugged me like he thought I'd disappear. "Come back famous," he said. I kissed his forehead. "I'll come back louder." The taxi ride was long. The buildings got taller, the air changed, it smelled like metal and money. At the academy, the other students arrived with laptops and earbuds. I arrived with paper and scars. But when I opened my notebook and began to read, the room leaned in. Because even in a room full of voices, the truth still rises. The academy was a world of firsts. My first time reading Maya Angelou. My first time using a real computer. My first time hearing my own name echo off white walls and glass windows. But even there, where coffee steamed and pages turned like jazz, I felt the weight of where I came from. When others shared stories of vacations and visions, I shared stories of candlelight and cracked ceilings. One student asked, "Why are your poems so heavy?" I looked at my hands. Because I carry more than myself. My words were never soft. They were hard like broom handles, sharp like broken glass. They told of Mama's missing smile, of Gogo's swollen knees, of the boy down the street who never made it past 15. Some teachers tried to polish my pain. "Could you make it more hopeful?" But I couldn't write lies. Hope didn't always come wrapped in a ribbon. Sometimes it came with bruises. Still, I kept writing. Every week I sent my poems back to Sipho. He pinned them to the shack walls like wallpaper. Mama never said anything. But one night, Sipho whispered through the phone, "She read your poem 3 times. She cried the second." And in that moment I knew I was breaking through. But the road wasn't always clear. One cold morning, I woke to a call. Mama was sick, worse than before. The clinic was far, the queues long, money was tight. I felt torn between my dreams and my duties. I wanted to write, but I needed to be there. Days blurred as I juggled hospital visits and homework. The academy felt miles away, more than just distance on a map. Sometimes I thought about giving up, but Gogo's voice came back strong. Stars don't shine without darkness. So I kept writing, even when the ink ran dry, because I wasn't just writing for me anymore. I was writing for Mama, for Sipho, for the countless voices silenced by circumstance. And in that struggle, I found my strength. One morning, while sorting through my bag, I found something I hadn't seen in years. A folded envelope, yellowed at the edges, my name written in Gogo's careful, slanted handwriting. I opened it slowly, as if it might dissolve in my hands. Inside, a letter. Not from Gogo, from my mother. I had to leave, Ayanda, it read. I wanted more for you. Forgive me. I stared at those words until they blurred. Questions poured in like rain. Where was she now? Did she read my poems? Would she know me if she saw me? That night, I wrote a poem I couldn't read out loud. I called it Letters That Don't Arrive. It was about absences, of people, of answers, of soft goodbyes. The Academy printed it in their annual collection. Months later, a magazine picked it up, then a blog, then a radio station. My words traveled farther than I ever had. And everywhere they landed, someone whispered, I feel seen. I wasn't chasing fame. I was chasing freedom. And for the first time, I could feel it, not in a headline, but in the hush between one truth and the next. The phone rang at 3:12 a.m. I was awake. I'm always awake at that hour, where dreams and doubt wrestle in the dark. It was Sipho, his voice small and shaking. Mama's not breathing. I dropped the phone. I don't remember the taxi ride, just the sound of my heartbeat chasing the streetlights. At the hospital, I found Sipho curled in a plastic chair, his hands in tight fists. Mama lay still, her face calm like she'd just exhaled one final story. No machines, no chords, just silence. I sat beside her and whispered, I hope you heard me, Mama. I hope you know I tried. The next morning, I stood outside the shack. The sky was blue in that unfair way it sometimes is. The neighbors brought flowers. Some brought silence. Sipho didn't cry. Not that day. He just handed me my notebook and said, Write it down, Ayanda. Write so she can hear it wherever she is. So I did. I wrote until the pages ran dry, and when I finally slept, I dreamed of Mama walking barefoot into the stars. After the funeral, I returned to the academy with red eyes and quiet footsteps. My poems had changed. They were no longer just stories. They were weapons, shields, songs. My final piece for the Academy showcase was titled, Dust Never Dies. It was a tribute to Mama, to Gogo, to every girl writing in the dark. The night of the performance, the stage lights felt like heat from the township sun. I clutched my notebook. My knees trembled, but my voice didn't. This is for eKasi, I began. And as I spoke, I saw heads nod, eyes close, fists clench. I saw hearts open. When I finished, the room went still, and then there was applause. Not polite, not forced, real, loud. I stepped off the stage and into a hug from my teacher. Ayanda, she whispered, you didn't just perform, you brought them home. And in that moment, I wasn't just the girl from eKasi, I was the voice of it. A week after the showcase, my teacher handed me a slip of paper. Call them, she said. It was the number, a Johannesburg radio station. They wanted to feature me. Me, Ayanda, the girl with dust on her shoes and poems in her lungs. I took a taxi to the city with Sipho. He wore his cleanest shirt and kept asking if there would be snacks. The studio smelled like coffee and confidence. When the red light blinked on, I froze. You're live in 3, 2... But then, I thought of Gogo's whispers, Mama's hands, Sipo's smile. I spoke, not just with my voice, but with everything I had carried. The host wiped a tear. Ayanda, your words, they reach. Calls poured in. One woman said, "My daughter writes now because of you." Another man whispered, "I never cried before today." I realized this voice, once silenced by poverty and pain, now echoed in places I had never even seen. I was no longer just telling stories. I was becoming one. I returned to eKasi with more than a notebook. I came back with a name people now knew. The kids at the corner shop called me Radio Girl. Mama's old stall at the taxi rank stood empty, but neighbors had cleaned it. They'd placed flowers. A small framed photo. "She was proud of you," one auntie said. I nodded, holding back tears. At home, Sifo had drawn me in crayon, standing on a stage, hands raised to the sky. "You're big now," he said, "but don't forget us little people." I laughed, but that night I stared at our tin roof, the stars peeking through rust holes like ancestors watching over us. I thought about what it meant to rise without leaving the ground behind. I picked up my pen and I wrote, "Fame fades, but roots remain, because no matter how far my words travel, I carry eKasi in every line, in every pause, in every breath." Years later, I stood before a crowd, not as a student, but as a guest speaker. A university, hundreds of faces, bright eyes, open notebooks. I took a breath, looked down at my old, worn journal. Gogo's notebook. The pages were torn, the ink faded, but the spirit still fierce. "I come from dust," I began, "but don't mistake it for weakness." And I told them the story of tin rooftops and burning skies, of vet cook and verse, of a girl who wrote her way out, but never left her people behind. Afterward, a girl approached me. "I'm from Soweto," she said. "I write too." She handed me her poem, folded, neat and trembling. I read the first line. "We are daughters of dust, and we do not break." I smiled, because I knew this was never just my story. It was a seed, and in places like eKasi, seeds bloom in the cracks. So if you ever walk those streets, listen closely. You'll hear it, the sound of words rising, the echo of a girl who chose to speak.